thing that becomes a problem is Jasmine's need to constantly bring up the fact that Gino isn't like her ex-boyfriend, who happens to also live in the apartment building that she has moved into. And now Gino is staying in with her as well. Yeah, it's really wild. What is up, you guys? Welcome back to the channel. It's your girl JD here, back with another video. So today we're doing another recap of 90 Day Fiance before the 90 days. And I watched the last couple of episodes and there's a lot to talk about. I think the last recap that I did covering all the couples, that was only covering maybe 2 episodes, like the first 2 episodes or so. If you guys like to check that out, I'll link it in the corner here. But I also did a video talking specifically about Tyree and Carmela as well, and that was pretty recent. I'll also link that somewhere along in this video for you guys to watch, or at least click on with ease to watch it. But there's a lot more to talk about now because I finally got to watch all of the rest of the couples. But in that video, I wasn't able to talk about Misha and Nicola, Christian and Cleo, and then also Statler and Dempsey. So I'm going to be talking about those 3 other couples now in this video because I was finally able to see a few episodes with them actually in it and see how they interacted with each other. So let's dive right into all of this madness. So Amanda and Razvan, I'm not entirely sure where the heck I left off at in the other video, but either way, Amanda comes over to visit Razvan in Romania. They meet up. She is now staying with Razvan in his apartment, and of course things are slightly heating up, but you could definitely tell that Amanda isn't really fully comfortable with Razvan just yet. And also the fact that, you know, like I mentioned in the previous video, she just lost her husband not too long ago, like literally just earlier that year. So of course she is not going to really be fully invested into a relationship just yet. And honestly, just seeing her jump into one is kind of like, why? I think everybody could admit, at least all of the viewers out there, you could definitely look at the situation and be like, why are you putting yourself through this when you know you haven't really fully healed yet? So it's not really making sense to me. But either way, we find ourselves in this situation. Amanda and Razvan are trying to make things work. We hear from Razvan that he was actually trying to get a visa to come over to the US, but you could definitely tell from the horrific look on Amanda's face when he tells her this that she's not ready for that and she thinks it's too early, and she even tells Razvan that.
Have the interview.
For what?
A tourist visa for America. You can come there in right after you leave.
No.
You don't want?
So Razvan is looking confused, like, okay, am I ever going to come over to meet your family and meet your kids? It's just going to be a continued thing where you just try to hide me. Eventually we see that Amanda still has some issues with what Razvan does for work with regards to his music. Amanda voices her opinions with regards to him kissing a girl in his music video and all this type of stuff. And moving forward, it looks as though that Amanda has more issues with regards to intimacy between her and Razvan. And it's brought up from Razvan's side that he kind of wants to have sex and, you know, do this, do that. And she's just like, oh no, I'm on my period. And he's just like, it's okay. Like, I don't really care. But, you know, she continues to give more and more excuses like, no, we're not doing that because of this. And it just goes downhill from there. And just, again, the question overall is just, why are you putting yourself through this when you know you aren't ready? You know you aren't ready to do these things. You know you aren't ready to be in a new relationship. Why are we here? But moving forward, we have Riley and Violet. So Riley finally goes over to Vietnam to visit Violet and meet her family. And that interaction is kind of awkward from the jump because in Vietnam they do expect you to bring, you know, gifts or something to offer the elders or the rest of the family members, especially when it's the first meeting and you're trying to woo them to get the hand in marriage. Definitely didn't start off great. It was a little rocky because of that. And then also, you know, the language barrier just was really awkward watching them try to talk to each other. I'm not even gonna lie. And every now and again during the conversation while they were at dinner, Violet would just break off into Vietnamese Vietnamese have conversations with her family members and with her mom, I think, she would just have these side conversations without Riley and not really tell Riley what they were talking about. She wouldn't really keep him in the know, and it's just kind of side-eye-ish. So when they decided to go out on their first date, I think it was like a dinner or something like that, Riley finds out that Violet has other plans and it doesn't involve him.
I have a little bit busy. In the morning, I have a mission with school.
And he's just like, okay, why am I coming all the way to Vietnam to hang out with you and you don't even want to hang out with me? You know what I mean? I'm with him on that one. But when it gets kind of crazy is when Violet decides to take him out and get like some type of fitting for, I guess, a traditional Vietnam suit or something. And while Riley is getting fitted, she decides to have Violet now. She decides to have a conversation with the seamstress in Vietnamese, basically calling him ugly. And I was just like, how is that funny? Even Riley's looking confused, like, how is this funny? Like, that's really disrespectful and hurtful. Like, why would you say that? She definitely tries to pass it off as, oh, it's just how we talk to each other, how we interact with each other. It's just Vietnamese humor, right? And I'm just like, I understand that you have cultural differences, but I personally feel like you're lying. I feel like you're just trying to be snarky and be mean, and you're trying to pass it off as, oh, everybody does this here. And it's just like, yeah, side eye. And then when they leave, that's when Violet gets like a message or something from one of her friends, so to speak, and the guy's shirtless in his profile pic, I guess. And Riley's looking at Violet like, okay, you're not gonna tell me who the heck this is? It's very suspect that you're walking off with your phone to go read a message and then respond. You know what I mean? So yeah, I don't really care for Violet in this moment, but I do also think moving forward that Riley also shows his behind as well. We're gonna get to that. Now, moving past that issue, they decide to not talk about that again. Obviously, there's like some type of faulty trust foundation there, but Riley still continues to obviously hang out with Violet. But there is another issue that arises when they go to dinner again, and I guess Riley decides to use that moment to call on his friend, I guess, who's kind of like a sister to him. And the friend decides to just straight up ask Violet like, hey, you know, I think I said this in the other video actually. Violet wanted Riley off of the dating app that they met on, but Violet continued to stay on the dating app. So it was looking very questionable. So obviously the friend asks this question and Violet automatically is confused. She's just like, well, why would you be asking me that question? You know, it's just weird. But of course she's trying to be respectful because this is Riley's friend. But at the same time, it was like, why are you putting me on the spot like this? And then also Riley not really taking up for her. He's just like, answer the question, answer the question. And Violet's just like, why are you coming at me with so much energy right now and hostility when your friend's right there, basically? She didn't really say that, but that's what I was getting. It was very odd. Riley could have brought this up himself. I don't feel like the friend should have been the one to do that. So that was just really kind of slimy. And also how Riley did her, it was just really kind of dirty in my opinion. So at the end of it all, Violet does not answer the question and Riley just decides to basically storm off. They do not continue their date. They ended on a very bad note and they block each other. But Violet decides to send a message to Riley before she blocks Riley. In the message, she basically says to Riley, in short, you're a terrible man because you don't stand up for me. I'll never forget that. Yada yada, right? And she basically connects this situation back to when her previous husband basically did the same thing where he didn't protect her. She didn't feel protected by him. It's not looking so great at the moment for Riley and also Violet, but I don't think it's gonna work out because both of them are kind of terrible people if we're going to be real. But that's pretty much what I think about them. Now we're gonna move on to the next couple. So next we have Gino and Jasmine. Now, it's just such a hot piping mess. But I think that Gino in this season has been doing a better job of actually trying to stand up for himself. It might be at really random moments, like that one time when Jasmine was just trying to get him to help her cook and he was just like, where's the cutting board? I can't do this if you don't have the proper tools. And then he just storms off and gets mad and goes and sits in the bedroom. And it's just like, what is happening right now? It's really random. And Gino just takes that opportunity to say to the camera that he feels as though Jasmine is always trying to bulldoze over him and all this type of stuff. And I'm just like, what are you talking about, Gino? All she wanted you to do is help her cook. Like, what? So it was really random. We continue on, and there's more issues that arise as they try to communicate and talk to each other and basically hash some things out that need to be hashed out before they actually make it down the aisle. Because even though Gino had proposed to her and they're technically engaged, they have had such a rocky engagement, okay? And one of the things or reasons as to why it has been really rocky is that Jasmine never wants to talk about having a prenup. She never wants to invite the idea of signing a prenup and basically, you know, allowing Gino to protect himself financially speaking, right? And it's really wild that she never wants to hear his side about anything. Anything that he wants to bring up, Jasmine automatically goes on the defense and starts shouting and going crazy and starts cussing at him. And it's just like, Gino, why do you stay? Like, Gino, even though, like I said, he stands up for himself in really weird moments, it's just sometimes where I'm like, why do you stay at all? Why are you here? Why are y'all even in a relationship? But either way, the whole prenup thing, that kind of goes downhill. But Gino ultimately decides at the end he's just gonna take away the prenup and not even bother. And Jasmine, she pretty much said that if he decided to stick to his guns with it, she was actually going to compromise. But she decides to let him talk first, and he basically says that I'm just gonna do away with the prenup. I don't feel like we need it. So if he had just shut up, pretty much said like, I still think that this is something that we need, and just press the issue, more than likely Jasmine was gonna bend. But you know, she got what she wanted in the end ultimately. But one other thing that becomes a problem is Jasmine's need to constantly bring up the fact that Gino isn't like her ex-boyfriend, who happens to also live in the apartment building that she has moved into, and now Gino is staying in with her as well. Yeah, it's really wild. In an argument, she actually says to Gino she doesn't feel pleased by him sexually and that her ex-boyfriend does it way better. And of course it's very hurtful, and Gino is just like, well, why aren't you with him then? Why are you here with me? It doesn't make sense. You could tell obviously Jasmine just says things sometimes to just kind of bite back at him. But Gino does eventually find out that she's still talking with this man and that they still have a friendly relationship, because there was a whole scene when they went to like lunch or something together to talk about Gino. And I'm just like, how you think this is okay is beyond my understanding, but we're gonna move on. Obviously, they go to therapy after a couple of blow-ups. They finally decide to talk through their issues. But what I do find weird is when I think they were going out to try and plan something for Jasmine's sister's birthday, her younger sister. I think Jasmine was trying to find a gift for her, so she buys this necklace. And then after she buys the necklace, she pretty much asks the store clerk, can I look at your rings? And she just starts looking at rings because she says that she lost the engagement ring that Gino bought for her. And I'm just like, wait, what? Like, it just magically disappears? But either way, it sounds as though she didn't like it and she just found a way to do away with it so that she could get another one out of him. But she just kind of springs that up on him. And I'm just like, this is exactly why he wanted a prenup, is because you do stuff like this where it's just like, are you just trying to spend my money? She says one thing and then she does the complete opposite. And she of course gets mad about the whole ring thing. And Gino, he stands up for himself a little bit. He's just like, no, we're not doing this right now. And later in the day, they're doing like this little biking activity or whatever with Jasmine's sister. And Jasmine's just joking around with Gino, like laughing. And it looks as though the little sister, thank God, doesn't really speak that great of English. So she didn't really understand what Jasmine and Gino were saying to each other. But Jasmine basically says she fakes orgasms with Gino. And I'm just like, wait, why would you, what? Like, it was just so random and uncalled for. And Gino is just like, what do you mean? You know what I mean? Like, what? So then she decides to laugh it off and basically says, I'm kidding. But I'm looking at her with a side eye. I'm like, Jasmine, please, please. You're not kidding. But yeah, they're just a hot mess. Honestly, I feel like Gino is probably going to get taken advantage of if they do actually make it to the altar. I don't know how that's gonna work. I really don't. I'm scared for him, actually. But Gino, honestly, he puts himself in these situations. So I can't really feel completely bad, but I do feel a little bad, you know? When it comes to the next couple, Tyree and Carmela, I didn't really see much of them in the last episode that I watched. I pretty much, in that video that I did of him, I'll link it in the corner here, pretty much gave you guys a very much so complete update of his situation. So there isn't really much to say about him, but it looks as though in this upcoming episode that he's actually talking to the real person that the other individual had stole pictures from. But either way, he's trying to meet up with this girl that has no clue he actually exists. They've never met before. She doesn't know who he is because she wasn't the one that was talking to him. So yeah. But moving forward to David and Sheila. So David finally lands in the Philippines to meet up with Sheila, and they were able to get to a hotel and, you know, have some alone time. And it looks as though they enjoyed themselves the next morning, okay? I think Sheila was really nervous because she was basically saying that she'd never been intimate with a deaf person before. So she was kind of curious to see how that was gonna differ from being with a person that's hearing, I guess. But it looks as though they didn't have any issues in that department. But one thing I do have to say that was kind of odd to me was after all of that traveling, that they get to the hotel and David doesn't take a shower. He doesn't take his dirty clothes off and change. Like, he just pretty much jumps in the bed, and I'm just like, Sheila, you deserve better. You know what I'm saying? Like, that was the one moment where I was like, David, please do better, sir. Please do better. But it looks as though regardless, they had a good time. The next day, they head to Sheila's parents' house, or where Sheila lives with her son and also her parents. Obviously, she is definitely self-conscious about the house because it is very much so dilapidated, and really and truly nobody should be living in that. But unfortunately, that's all that they have. They meet up with a interpreter or a signer. I don't know how to say it, but she is basically there for David to talk to all the other family members, and also kind of talk to Sheila as well, because Sheila is also still kind of learning how to sign as well. So I guess Sheila in that moment was feeling a little, you know, kind of jealous about the whole situation, because she's just like, you know, I can't really sign, and she was just kind of feeling insecure about the fact that the girl looked, I guess, kind of pretty, and that David was talking to her instead of Sheila. I don't know, but it was kind of weird. But I understood where she was coming from. But it was like, if that's how you feel, then do more with learning ESL. You know what I'm saying? It's that simple. It's an easy fix. Regardless, they go over to the house, and obviously David meets up with the parents, and he's just really in shock about the state of the house, and it looks kind of way worse than what he thought when he was seeing pictures and stuff like that. But he is staying in a hotel. He's not staying in the house. So unfortunate thing is that they actually ended up finding the next morning that Sheila's mom had actually passed away. I forgot how. I think they said they found her at the bottom of the stairs or the top. I don't know. But either way, she passed away. I just really find it crazy that TLC actually, in the episode right before that one, that they decided to actually tease the fact that someone had passed away. And I'm just like, why would y'all put that in a teaser? I could see if y'all filmed it and put it in the episode, but don't use it as a teaser for the next episode. It seems really like, come on now, why would you do that? So obviously David is trying to do his best to be there for Sheila, but it is a very shocking situation and very unexpected. I'm not sure how this is going to affect how they interact with each other moving forward, because you could definitely tell that Sheila needs a moment to process her emotions about all of this, because that was her mom that passed away. It wasn't even like a distant relative or cousin or something like that. It was her mother. So I know that's going to be really rough moving forward to try and figure out and navigate how they're going to go about actually being there for each other in such a tumultuous time. Moving to Misha and Nicola, I finally was able to catch up with them. So Misha has gone over to Israel to meet up with Nicola, and I gotta be honest, it's not looking so great. It's hella awkward, and I honestly feel like Nicola is very mean to Misha, if I'm going to be honest. And I think Misha is just trying to be really understanding about it, but I think almost too understanding to some extent, because she's just letting him get away with saying whatever he wants. You could definitely see that they're real connection to each other was just the church. Like, you could see that Misha was trying to see what else is there besides just their connection with religion. But with Nicola, it sounds as though that's all he's interested in. That's all he finds important in life. Everything else is just unnecessary to even talk about. So of course, the first thing that's an issue for Nicola is Misha's messiness in the hotel room that they're sharing. So they have 2 separate beds. So from a religious standpoint, obviously they're trying not to have sex with each other until they get married. But Misha already told Nicola, like, hey, if we don't get engaged while I'm here, this relationship is over. So it's definitely putting a lot of pressure on them, I feel, to figure out really quickly how they're going to work together. So obviously this is the first point of tension, is that Misha is kind of messy. But then, you know, eventually he kind of forgets about that. He's showing her things, being her tour guide basically, and he finally gets her to meet up with his friend, and she has this cat in her hand, and he's getting mad with the fact that instead of talking to my friend, you're basically playing with this cat. And I was like, well, to be fair, he kind of has a point, considering that she had been pressuring him to speak with his family members for a while, and now he finally gets to speak with someone that's close to him, maybe not a family member, but, you know, his friend that he definitely respects and is important to him, and you're playing with this cat. You know what I'm saying? It's just like, I'd be kind of irritated too, but it was the way that he was talking to her about it, and it was just kind of condescending. Not even kind of, it was very condescending. And just the way that he speaks with her afterwards as well, it's very condescending too. And when Nicola's friend's wife also joins them, he decides to take this opportunity to express his frustrations with Misha's messiness in their hotel room. And I'm just like, Nicola, why would you talk about this in this moment? What importance does that have to your relationship right now? It just seems like, again, very condescending, and you're trying to make Misha look bad. Another thing that I found was weird was when they decided to go out to this club, and Misha basically says to Nicola, hey, you know, every now and again I like to light a cigarette up or whatever, like just do a little bit of smoking. And Nicola's just looking at her like, what are you talking about? We're Catholics. We're not supposed to smoke. We're not supposed to drink like that. What are we doing? Misha's just like, I just want to have a good time every now and again. I don't see a problem with that. But of course, Nicola is like really, really heavy into being super devout and Catholic, and very much so strict when it comes to the rules, and Misha isn't. So that's a clash. And another thing that I saw from them last was when they headed back to the hotel room, and Misha is just trying to have a heart-to-heart conversation with Nicola about the state of their relationship right now, how she's feeling, and also how she feels about how he talks about her and how he talks to her as well, and how she's seeing that as problematic. And I think it was a very fair conversation. And, you know, she did happen to get a little emotional, a little teary-eyed while she was talking to him, and Nicola just automatically dismissed what she was saying because of that, basically saying like he doesn't know why she's getting emotional, why she's so emotional, da 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 da. And I'm like, she sheds like 1 or 2 tears during the entire time that you guys are there. Like, I don't understand how she's always emotional. This is the first time we actually see Misha show emotion. So it was really weird that he, instead of actually trying to console her and talk to her really sweetly and nicely and talk through their issues, he just decides to turn off the conversation and, you know, walk away, basically saying that he doesn't want to talk about what she's talking about right now. Or ever, really, it seems. It never really seems like a good time for Nicola. One last thing that I want to mention that Nicola had said that kind of rubbed me the wrong way was the moment when they were in the hotel room and Misha's trying to talk to him, and Nicola is just like, you're talking too much. You're much nicer looking when you're quiet, or something like that. And I'm like, who says that to a person? Like, who? You know, it's just really like, wow. Honestly, I feel like that relationship is gonna crash and burn, and real soon. Next, we have Christian and Cleo. So Christian is from Minnesota and Cleo is from England, and Cleo is trans. And it looks as though that probably was the most nerve-wracking thing for both of them, really, just to see in terms of the intimate side of their relationship if that was going to work out. So basically both of them meet up with each other. Christian comes to the airport, meets Chloe, kisses her, and it seems like, you know, Cleo was kind of in shock. She was like, I did not expect for you to do that. She's just like, I didn't really expect to do that either, but I felt it in the moment. Moving forward, Christian is hanging out in Cleo's apartment. It is a little awkward, them trying to interact with each other. Also, Cleo is autistic as well, so there are a few things here and there that kind of, you know, serve as a little bit of like a trigger for her. Sometimes she would feel kind of claustrophobic and would need, like, you know, some space, and that definitely shows up when they decide to go out to a few clubs and places to drink and eat and stuff. We definitely see that Cleo is really uncomfortable and Christian is definitely at home. So there's a difference in how they interact with people and things, and I think that Cleo feels kind of insecure about that. She's trying to make sure that Christian is having a good time, but it does look as though that might become a little bit of a problem. There are differences in what they consider fun, what they like to do. It might be interesting to see how their personalities gel. There hasn't really been too many episodes with them in it together so far, so that's kind of all that I have to really say on them at the moment. But it does look as though in terms of the next step in their relationship is going to be the physical intimacy, and I think both of them are kind of nervous, but I think Christian might be a little more nervous than Cleo is. So I think Cleo thinks as though they have a physical chemistry, but I don't know if Christian thinks the same just yet. So that's all I have to say on them, but we're going to move on to the last couple, Statler and Dempsey. So Statler is from Texas, Dempsey is from England. Statler comes over to hang out with Dempsey in England, and they go to her apartment or camper or whatever it is. I think it's in the countryside or something like that. And you could definitely tell that Statler wasn't really comfortable in the camper. It's kind of awkward seeing them meet for the first time as well. They're two awkward people and they even say that. But what I find kind of shocking and kind of worrisome is the fact that Dempsey felt as though that she needed to be intimate with Statler really early on. She usually takes things slow, but she felt as though with Statler that she needed to move a little faster because she, you know, realizes that Statler has a lot more experience sexually than she does. So I find that kind of worrying that she felt the need to do that, but she wasn't really entirely comfortable with doing that just yet, but she decided to do it anyway. They kind of breezed past that, but that was really worrying. It's like, did she feel pressure? I just didn't really like the sound of that. But moving forward, they finally decide to cook together. I think Dempsey is actually vegan, I think. But either way, they decide to cook together. Statler's trying to help her even though she's used to just microwave meals. But they finally have this conversation about how Statler felt with regards to Dempsey not really communicating with her while she was in Thailand. I guess while she was in Thailand, Dempsey wasn't really able to talk with her as much. Because of that, Statler felt as though, you know, maybe Dempsey was cheating on her. And then it comes up where Dempsey asks Statler, like, hey, have you ever cheated on anyone? And Statler says, yes, I have. And immediately Dempsey is just like, oh no, red flag, red flag. Because I do feel like the main reason as to why people tend to feel insecure about their partners cheating on them is if they themselves have probably cheated in the past in past relationships, if we're going to be honest. Obviously there's other reasonings as to why your partner would feel insecure in that area, but I think that definitely tends to be in the top 5. But that's pretty much all that I have to say on the couples. I'm definitely out of breath at the moment because I did so much talking, but hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know your thoughts on all of these couples so far down in the comments, but I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.